Okay, hello guys. Let's continue. So, we we read this coherence and cohesion part, and we finished it in the last video. So let's go on to the next one. Now we are going to read about coherence and cohesion between and within sentences. Great. Demak, gaplarni orasidagi coherence va cohesion. Learning lists of cohesive devices creates another problem. Demak, bog'lovchilarni yodlash boshqa yana bitta muammoni keltirib chiqaradi. It puts the emphasis at the beginning of a sentence and on sentence linkers. Va bu o'sha gapni boshlanishiga urg'u qo'yadi va gaplarni bir-biriga bog'laydigan so'zlarga urg'u beradi. However, cohesion is being assessed both between and within your sentences. So it is important to think about cohesive devices more broadly. Biroq bog'lovchilar, ya'ni cohesion gaplaringiz bir-biriga bog'lashingiz ham gaplaringiz orasida ham gaplaringiz ichida bo'lishiga qarab turib baholanadi va shuning uchun ham bog'lovchilar haqida biz kengroq fikrlashimiz kerak. Look at the highlighted words in the following sentence. Quyidagi gaplardagi o'sha rang bilan ko'rsatib qo'yilgan, alohida ko'rsatib qo'yilgan so'zlarga e'tibor bering. This is like picking up any tool you can find without thinking about how to use it. This va it. Hop. The highlighted pronouns are cohesive devices. O'sha belgilab qo'yilgan, highlight qilib qo'yilgan olmoshlarimiz bog'lovchi qurilmalar ekan. We can see that it refers to a tool because it is within the same sentence. It bu toolni bildirayotganini ko'ra olishimiz mumkin, chunki bu bitta gapning ichida turibdi. But we do not know that this refers to without looking at the previous sentence. So it is an example of a cohesive between sentences. Lekin biz mana bu birinchida turgan thisni bu gapimiz orasidan qaysidir so'zni bildirayotganini bila olmaymiz va o'zi umuman olganda this nimani ko'rsatayotganini bilishimiz uchun biz mana shu this ishtirok etgan gapdan oldingi gapni ko'rishimiz kerak, deyapti. Va shuning uchun ham mana shu ikkitasi this bu gaplar orasidagi between the sentences cohesion ekan, ya'ni bog'lovchi gaplar orasidagi, it esa within the sentence, ya'ni bitta gapni ichidagi bog'lovchilar deb hisoblanar ekan. Here is the complete paragraph with different colors showing which ideas are being connected. As you can see, there is a device being used between each sentence, which gives the appearance of cohesion. However, some of these words and phrases are being used rather mechanically. This is like picking up any tool you can find without thinking about how to use it. As a result, they are either inappropriate or inaccurate. Tushunarli. Demak, this bu yerda mana bu mexanik usulda ishlatilinishini bildiryapti. Using cohesive devices mechanically. As a result esa mana shu using cohesive devices mechanically ni natijasini ko'rsatyapti. Hop, a device deganda bu yerda o'sha so'zlar nazarda tutilyapti va some of these words and phrases yana o'sha devicelarga they ham yana o'sha narsani bildiryapti. Ya'ni bu yerda qarang, bitta shu paragrafimizda bir-biriga gaplarimiz bog'langan. Ya'ni har bittasi bir-biriga bog'lanib kelyapti-da. Keyingi 3-4 gaplarimizda ham birinchi gapimizga bog'liqlik bor. Mana shu narsa muhim. Mana shu narsani ko'rsatib beryapti. So practice. You will identify the type of cohesive devices being used in the paragraph above. Demak, yuqoridagi paragrafimizda ishlatilgan bog'lovchilarni turini aniqlashimiz kerak ekan. So, tushunarli. Okay. So, question 1. Look at the numbered words and phrases. Raqam qo'yilgan shu so'zlarni, frazalarni ko'rar ekanmiz 1dan 9 gacha va ularni quyidagi cohesive devicelarga moslashimiz kerak ekan. Mana masalan ABCD bor ekan. Linking words or phrases used between sentences. Gaplar orasida ishlatiladigan bog'lovchi so'z yoki fraza. Pronoun masalan almosh. Relative pronoun masalan which, where, that, etc. Conjunction bog'lovchi and, but, or, etc. Substitution both, some, each, neither, plus a synonym. Alright. Write your answers below and click on show answers when you have finished it. Okay. Interesting. So, a device. How can I write here? Hop. Bog'lovchilarimiz. As bor bizda. Hop, o'zi qo'yib qo'ygandan ko'raylik. Mana which bor ekan. Which bu relative pronoun hisoblanadi. Which relative pronoun. Hop. Which deyimizda C olib ketamiz. Hop. Ikki however bor ekan. Howeverimiz linking word hisoblanadi. Linking word a. However a bo'ladi. Hop, uchinchisi some of these words or phrases be bo'lishi kerak, pronoun bo'lishi kerak. These words or phrases bu yerda be bo'lib kelyapti. Hop. To'r. This oson pronoun bu ham. This be. Demak, uchimiz bo'lishi ham mumkin ekan, substitution, chunki o'rniga mana bu device so'zini o'rniga kelyapti. O'rniga kelayotgan bo'lsa, o'rnini bosuvchi narsa, ya'ni mana bitta both some variantda kelishi ham mumkin. Так что buni qilib turaylikcha. 5-imiz qani 5. It pronoun, it be. Hop, 6 as a result. Hop. Linking word hisoblanadi, bog'lovchi, boshqa anaqa yo'q, bitta unga tushadigani. As a result I ekan. 7 they pronoun, they be. Hop, 8 either substitution ekan. Either e. 9imiz oxirgisi or conjunction ekan. Or conjunctionimiz D ekan. Xo'p, qani bitta tekshirib ko'raylikchi, nechta xato qildik ekan. Yes, we want to see the answers. Xo'p, C, A, E, B, 5 B, 6 A, 7 B, 8 E emas D ekan, 9 ham D ekan. 8imiz either olib substitution dedim. Yo'q, bu conjunction ekan, bu bog'lovchi ekan 8imiz. Either demak so'zimiz ham conjunction bog'lovchi ekan. Okay. Yaxshi, bitta xato qilamiz 8da either. Okay, not bad. So, let's continue. Assessing coherence and cohesion. Mana shu coherence, cohesion, ya'ni bog'lashni, ma'no chiqarishni baholash. Looking back at our earlier sample, the highlighted areas below show the types of language your examiner is actually considering when assessing your use of cohesive devices within and between sentences. First, chicken consumption stood at 150 grams for every person per week in 1979. After this, it witnessed a slight rise in its value throughout the given period to reach 250 grams in 2004. On contrary, beef consumption, which recorded a high of just about 200 grams in 1979, showed a slight initial growth in its level. in the following 10 years before declining significantly to end at approximately half its starting level by 2004. Likewise, lamb, which was consumed at an identical rate to chicken in 1979, showed a marked drop in its consumption throughout the next 25 years, to hit a low of about 60 grams per week in 2004. Also, fish consumption, despite showing a minimal decrease in the first 5 years, it remained stable throughout the following 20 years, to report a shy of 50 grams per person per week in 2004. Each of the highlighted words and phrases have an impact on how the information is connected and whether this is being done clearly and logically, so that we know what is being referred back to and understand how these ideas are connected. I used to read the show, I use it read to show the inaccurate use of cohesive device. Inaccurate ishlatilganlari uchun qizil ishlatibdi. We will go into this in more detail in a later lesson when we look at the data being described. Notice that many of the errors are due to the cohesive devices often learned in a list and use it mechanically or template style at the beginning of the sentence. Bularni nima uchun xatoligini keyingi darslarda ko'rsatib berar ekan, keyingi anaqa betlarida kitobda. O'shangacha endi sabr qilib turamiz. Hozir bu yerdan tushunishimiz muhim bo'lgan narsa list sifatida bog'lovchilarni yodlab olish va ularni mexanik holatda ishlatish, ya'ni tabiiy emas, mexanik robotga o'xshash ishlatish, har bitta gapingizni boshida bunaqadan qo'yib turib ishlatish muammo keltirib chiqaradi, deyapti. Using cohesive devices to avoid repetition. Repetition is a particular problem in task 1 because you are generally dealing with a single topic throughout and often have to refer to the same periods of time or the same type of products, goods or services. Band 5 mentions that an answer may be repetitive because of a lack of referring and substitution, and these are both important in reducing repetition in your answer. Demak, 5lik yozadigan odamlarda o'sha o'rnini egallovchi substitute so'zlarni bilmasligi va refer qilishi bilmasligidan kelib chiqadi deb aytyapti. As this extract shows, the sample above manages this well. I have made corrections to the vocabulary where necessary. In contrast, beef consumption, which recorded a high of just about 200 grams in 1979, showed a slight growth in the following 10 years before declining significantly to end at approximately half its initial level by 2004. Tepada gapni mana shu yerda solishtirgan. In contrast, on contrary degan qismimiz. On contrary, beef consumption, which recorded a high of just about 200 grams in 1979, showed a slight initial growth in its level in the following 10 years before declining significantly to end at approximately half its starting level by 2004. In contrast, beef consumption, which recorded a high of just about 200 grams in 1979, showed a slight growth in the following 10 years before declining significantly to end at approximately half its initial level by 2004. So, starting on the initial qo'ygan, a slight growth, a slight initial olib tashlagan, the following 10 years, in the following 10 years before declining, not really big difference, but without the use of cohesive devices, this is what the sentence would say. Notice the repetition. In contrast, beef consumption recorded a high of just about 100 grams in 1979, and beef consumption grew to slightly about 200 grams from 1970 to 1979 to 1989. Then beef consumption declined significantly to approximately half beef's 1979 level by 2004. Demak, repetition ko'p bo'lgan, beef so'zi ko'p ishlatilgan, beef consumption so'zi ko'p ishlatilgan. Tepadagi holatimizda biz ishlatamiz which, eats, right? Mana shu so'zlarimizni ishlatganimiz uchun beef so'zini beef consumption so'zini ishlatishga majbur bo'lmaganman. For me, it is the level of control within sentences that makes this answer band 6 for coherence and cohesion rather than band 5. Practice. Because they have different uses and different meanings, not all connecting words and phrases are appropriate for the different task 1 questions. The following exercise will help you think about when or whether a specific connector might be helpful in your writing and practice using them accurately. In the final task, you'll correct some common errors in cohesive devices. If you find this too difficult, just make notes about any problems you can see. When you have completed each exercise, click on Show Answers to see the answers and my comments. Okay? Let's do the challenge. So, question number 1. Fill in the gap in the sentence by dragging and dropping the correct word from the list. Okay, mana bu listdan to'g'risini qo'yarkanmiz. When you have finished, decide which of these words you would use for a process task. A bar, chart or graph. Decide qilishimiz kerak. Hop, mayli. Is used to show contrast between two ideas and or sentences and highlights this contrast. Demak, nimadir ishlatiladi, ikkita ideya yoki gap orasidagi farqni ko'rsatish uchun va shu qarama-qarshilikni urg'u berib ko'rsatadi deyapti. Hop. In contrast. In contrast. Is used to show contrast between two ideas. Bitta ko'pku unga tushadiganlari. Although, in contrast, on the contrary. I don't know. It's a difficult one actually. Hop. Is used to show contrast within a sentence, but does not highlight the contrast. Within a sentence bo'lsa, mana bu within a sentence, bu gapni ichida bo'ladi. Bo'ldi. Bu gapni tashqarisida bo'lishi kerak ekan. Sentence and highlights this contrast. Maybe however. Yes, is used in a similar way to also. Also bilan bir xil holatda ishlatiladi. While is used to add new information that is even more important than the previous information. Oldingi ma'lumotdan ham ko'ra muhimroq bo'lgan ma'lumotni qo'shish uchun ishlatiladi. Hop. Muhimroq bo'lgan. Likewise bo'lsa bir xil bo'lib qoladi. Besides, furthermore, similarly, new information that is even more important. Furthermore, is used within a sentence to add new information. Gap ichida ishlatilar ekan, yangi informatsiya qo'shish uchun. That is similar to the previously mentioned information. Oldinroq aytib o'tilgan ma'lumotga o'xshagan holatda ekan va yangi ma'lumot qo'shish uchun gapimiz ichida ishlatilar ekan. All right. Similarly, shunga o'xshagan holatda, right? No, this is wrong. What about likewise? No. We need to pay attention. Bu gapni ichida ishlatiladi, bitta gapni ichida ishlatiladi deyapti. Hop. That is similar to besides. No. I don't know. Maybe also. Yeah, also. As used to introduce the first step in the process. Firstly, right? Initially. First step. Initially. Okay, first. Yeah. As used to show you are talking about what happened at the start of something and later change it. You're talking about what happened at the start of the something. Okay. Avvalida, boshida, keyin o'zgargan bo'lsa initially bo'lar ekan, yaxshi. Initially bilan first farqi, initially boshidagi holatini aytar ekansiz, keyin o'zgargan bo'lsa, mana shu initially ni ishlatar ekansiz. First esa dastlab birinchi degan holat bo'ldi. U o'zgarganmi yo'qmi, u narsa muhim emas. Hop, is used to show something followed a similar pattern or trend to something else. Okay, likewise, similarly. Similarly. o'xshaydi bir-biriga. Hop, is used to show you are talking about the difference between two things. Difference between two things. In contrast. Is used to show you are comparing two things. We are comparing. In comparison. Is used to show something happened or happens at the same time as something else, or to say what happened while waiting for something else. Demak, bir vaqt o'zida nimadir bo'layotgan bo'lsa, meanwhile. Question number 2. Okay, fill in the gaps in the sentences below using one of the words or phrases from exercise 1, and B, you need to use some of the words more than once. Alright? Possible words: although, also, furthermore, first, however, in comparison, contrast, initially, meanwhile, similarly, while. Okay. The number of male students increased each year, and this figure began to fall. Okay, first, the number of students, right? The number of male students increased each year. This figure began to fall. However, do we have however? Yes, however. Okay, first is wrong. Yeah, ko'k bo'larkan, to'g'ri bo'lsa. Birinchi nimada bo'lib keyin o'zgargan bo'lsa, initially da. Initially. Alright. Hope the number of male students increased steadily in the first decade. From onwards, the trend was reversed. Okay, 1990-yildan boshlab buni teskarisi bo'lgan ekan. Tushunarli. Although ga qaramay deylikchi. Although, yep, it's correct. Chicken consumption rose slowly in the first 20 years, then increased rapidly. Demak, birinchi 20 yilda sekin o'sibdi, keyin tez o'sibdi. Lamb consumption followed this trend up until 1990. Lamb consumption esa 1990-yilgacha xuddi shunaqa holatda davom etibdi bu ham. Xo'p, endi ikkalasi bir vaqt o'zida bo'lgan bo'lsa, lamb consumption followed this trend. Demak, u ham demoqchi bo'lsak, also qo'yamiz. Also. Chicken consumption rose slowly in the first 20 years, then increased rapidly. Demak, birinchi sekin ko'tarilgan, keyin tez ko'tarilgan. Lamb consumption rose steadily, then more rapidly. Okay. Bu ham bir xil bo'lgan. Similarly deyishimiz mumkin. Similarly, bir xil holatda ham bo'lgan. And it remained at relatively low level to chicken. Biroq bu chickenga nisbatan anchagina pastda turgan edi. Biroq bo'lsa, however, it remained at a relatively low level in comparison to chicken. Yeah, in comparison to chicken. Yep, that's correct. The chicken consumption rose slowly in the first 20 years, then increased rapidly. Beef consumption fell almost continually throughout this period. Meanwhile, no, wrong. Okay. Let's say in contrast. Buni bu bilan solishtiryapti deb hisoblaydigan bo'lsak. In contrast. Strong? Then what is the correct word? I don't know. It's a bit tricky. While. We have while. While bor ekanmi? While emasmi? While ekan, hayrati. Ya'ni bu yerda bitta ma'lumotni beryapti va shu bo'layotgan bir paytda ikkinchi narsa bo'layotganini ko'rsatish uchun while berishimiz mumkin. Okay? The raw materials are delivered to the factory. Olib kelinadi. Dastlab aniqlar olib kelinadi. Demak, bu birinchi etap qilinadigan bo'lsa, first ishlatilishi kerak. Tushunarli. Initially bilan first farqini o'rganib oldim men shu mashqda. Bitta foyda oldim. Each of these sentences has a common mistake with different types of cohesive devices. Demak, har bittasida qanaqadir ko'pchilik qiladigan xatosi bor ekan. Decide what the mistake is. Xato nimaligini aniqlashimiz kerak ekan, and then try to correct it if you can. Va buni to'g'rilashga harakat qilishimiz kerak ekan. Write your answers below and click on show answers when you have finished it. Javobimizni yozar ekanmiz va bosar ekanmiz. Xo'p. Lamb, which was consumed at an identical rate to chicken in 1979, showed a marked drop in its consumption throughout the next 25 years. Lamb, which was consumed at an identical rate to chicken in 1979. Okay, what is the mistake? I don't know. I don't know the mistake in this sentence. Man bitta whichdan oldin virgul qo'yilishi kerak. Lamb, which was consumed at an identical rate to chicken in 1979, showed a marked drop in its consumption throughout the next 25 years. Alright, looking at the information in more detail. At 6 a.m., the proportion of radio listeners was about 8%, and no one watched television at that time. Looking at the information in more detail. At 6 a.m. I don't like this at 6 a.m. The proportion of radio listeners was about 8%, and no one watched television at that time. I don't know, it's really difficult to find mistakes. You need to be expert to find the mistakes from this kind of good looking sentences. Turkey was the least popular destination, which had only 3 million visitors. Each of these sentences, all of them has problem. Turkey was the least popular destination, which had only 3 million visitors. Okay, I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea. The problem is in the case of spending on research of developing countries. In the case of spending on research of developing countries, this part seems wrong to me. Developing countries saw a downward trend. However, in industrialized countries, expenditure on research and development continued to rise. 2 groups of houses will be built on either side of the reception area, which they are connected by footpath. Which are connected. We don't need they here. Fish consumption, despite showing a minimal decrease in the first 5 years, it remained. We don't need it. We can just say remained stable throughout the following 20 years. Although this figure continued to rise until 2008, it began. We don't need but. We cannot use but because we have already used it. Also, it began to fall again in the following decade. However, the figure for TV fluctuated, but the trend was upward. What the hell? This sentence is totally wrong. Let's see the answers. So, what is the problem? Lamb, which, okay, I told we need comma, which was consumed at an identical rate to chicken in 1979, showed a marked drop in consumption throughout the days. Now it's the comma before which. Yeah, we need comma qo'yish kerak ekan. Gap yo'q. To'g'ri topgan ekanman. Men ham bilar ekanman inglizini sal-pal. Hop, ikkinchisidan to'polmadan. Looking at the information in more detail, at 6 a.m. the proportion of radio listeners was about 8%, but while no one watched television at the time. And ishlatgan, and ishlatolmasganmiz bu yerda. And qo'yishimiz xato bo'lar ekan. And qo'ygan. No. But yoki no one qo'yishimiz kerak ekan. Chunki negative gap keldi. Positive ga negative. Turkey, which was the least popular destination. Okay, uchinchisi. Was the least which had only okay. Demak, which ni to'g'ri ishlatishgan ekan. Which was the least popular destination had only 3 million visitors. Tushunarli. In the case of spending on research of development, developing countries saw a downward trend. However, in industrialized countries, such expenditure, okay, this type of expenditure continued to rise. We need to use substitution here to avoid repetition. Okay. However, in industrial countries, expenditure on research o'rniga, research and development o'rniga, expenditure on research and development desak, bir xil narsani takrorlagan bo'lamiz. Chunki spending on research of development bir xil bo'lib qolgan. Uni o'rniga such expenditure deb ketsak, research and development so'zini ishlashga majbur bo'lmaymiz. Shu repetitiondan qochish kerak bo'lgan ekan. Two groups of houses which will be connected by footpath will be built on either side of the reception area. Note the position of the relative clause and the use of comma. Demak, boshiga qo'yilishi kerak ekan. I have used brackets to show we can omit which will be to avoid repetition of will be. Demak, which will be ni tashlab ketsak ham bo'lar ekan. Fish consumption, despite showing a minimal decrease in the first 5 years, remained stable throughout the following 20 years. We do not need it here. We can also write, despite showing a minimal decrease in the first 5 years, fish consumption remained stable throughout the following 20 years. Hope. This order is more natural and is easier to read. Demek, despite bilan boshlaganimiz yaxshiroq ekan. Okay. Although this figure continued to rise until 2008, it began to fall again in the hop. We did not need but. Okay, but ishlatmasi kerak edi. Although the figure for TV fluctuated, the trend was upward. However, shows contrast between sentences. Although is used to show contrast within the sentence, so we do not need but here. Demak, 8-chi gapimizda but bor ekan. However ham but ham kerak emas. Although ni ishlatsak shu ikkita gapimizni ichida, gapni ichidagi solishtirishni ko'rsatib berar ekan althoug'imiz. Xo'p, bu yerda biza ikkida o'sha and qo'ygan, uni o'rniga but yoki while qo'yishligini bilmay qoldik. 3ta which o'rnini almashtirgan. Xo'p, qanaqa edi? Turkey was the least popular destination which had only 3 million visitors. Demak, Turkey, which was the least popular destination, had only 3 million visitors deb aytishimiz kerak bo'lgan ekan. 4-inchimiz, in the case of spending on research, demak bu yerda research on development degan narsani qaytarmaslik uchun mana bu such expenditure ni ishlatyapti. 5ta, the two groups of houses will be built on either side of the reception area which they are connected by footpaths. To'g'ri, bu xato turibdi. Two groups of houses which will be connected by footpath will be built on either side of the reception area bo'lishi kerak yoki two groups connected by footpath will be built on either side of the reception area desak ham bo'lar ekan. Hop. Great. All done. Perfect. I learned a lot. If you had any problems in this exercise, be sure to return to it later and practice again. Demak, mana shu hozir ishlaganimizdan qanaqadir xatolar bo'lsa, ularni yaxshilab o'rganib olishimiz kerak ekan. Qayta-qayta ko'rishimiz kerak. Relative clause'da muammo bo'lsa, relative clause'ni yaxshilab o'rganishimiz kerak. Key idea. Demak, mana shu chapterdan, mana shu o'qigan betimizdan asosiy g'oyamiz nima? As we saw with vocabulary, it is not a good idea to learn lists of cohesive devices without thinking of their meaning and learning how and when it is appropriate to use them. Demak, so'z bo'yligi yodlayotganimizda ularni qanday to'g'ri ishlatish, qaysi holatda munosib ishlatishni bilmay turib ularni yodlab olishimiz faqatgina bizga zararimizga ishlar ekan. Chunki mana ko'rdik, hozirgi mashqda qaranglar, shuncha muammo. Bo'lmasa normal vocablarni ishlatgan, lekin shular xato ishlatib qo'yilar ekan, qaranglar. Dajma o'zim anchagina xato qildim. Alright. Shuning uchun writingim 7da. 7da qotib qolgan. Xudo xolasa, keyin ko'taramiz writingimizni ham. Okay. Keyingi betiga alohida video qilaman. Rahmat. E'tiboringiz uchun sog' bo'linglar.